everybody, welcome back to Carried Away Travels. I'm so excited that you're joining me today for this video. It's one that I've been wanting to do for a while now, but life gets in the way and there's just been so many other adventures happening. So this one kind of took the back burner, but it is one that I really did want to do because I feel like it's going to provide a lot of value to anyone that's planning to visit Ecuador in the near future. Now, for those of you out there who actually read my blog, you will know this, but I didn't actually do a video on it, so I kind of want to recap. I did not want to visit Guayaquil at all. I was absolutely terrified of stepping foot in the city because I'd heard about all these terrible things happening to tourists. And so we were going there because of our Exotica tour. It was the last stop on our journey. That's the airport we were flying out of. And so we were going to have 2 days of free time. And so I started doing some research on things to do in the area. And it seemed like there was some decent stuff, but then you start reading those reviews like down in Yelp and someone's like, "I got robbed here." And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe that was, an out of the blue, like very random thing. But then when we were in the Galapagos Islands, we took a day trip snorkeling tour, and there was a couple there who had just come from Guayaquil with a different tour group, and they were sharing these horror stories about old ladies getting pushed down and people holding out their phone to take a picture and it getting just swiped out of their hands. And I was like, no, not doing it. We are just going to stay in our hotel for the entire time that we're in Guayaquil. Like, it is just not worth it. And so I went into this city very close-minded. And I wish I had known what I now know, and what I'm going to share with you guys today, that there is a safe way to explore the city. There are safe places to go. Obviously, you need to be alert, but you can visit Guayaquil and be confident about where you're going. So again, I really regret it because I remember landing on the flight from the Galapagos to Guayaquil, and it was one of the most beautiful airports I have ever seen. Like, when we came down to get our baggage, there was like this rainforest wall and a waterfall, and it was so beautiful, but I was scared to take out my phone to even take a picture of it because I was afraid someone was going to swipe it. Like, I had my hands clenched around my luggage, like no one was getting past me. But in hindsight, I didn't need to do that. And when I went into the city with that mentality, I think I initially missed a lot of the beauty that we could have had. So today, I want to give you some further insights on Guayaquil, why some people have issues and how you can avoid them, and 10 things you can do in the city that are perfectly safe and you will be able to have a wonderful time. All right, so if you don't know anything about Guayaquil, here's a brief history lesson. Basically, for a very long time, the city was mismanaged by its local government, and instead of pouring money into the city, they basically kept it for themselves. Until fairly recently, when some new management got in place and started pouring that money back into the city and making it a better and safe place to live. And most of those initial efforts went towards the Malecon 2000, which I will talk about later in this video. But there are great strides being made, but it's kind of starting at the waterfront and working back. So basically, the closer you are to the waterfront, the safer you're going to be. While we are walking around that area, there were police or security officers on just about every corner to make sure that there wasn't pickpocketing or violence. We were told when the locals want to have a nice evening out, that is where they go because that is where they feel safe. When we were walking around that area, we were actually approached by a police officer, and I thought we were in trouble for a second, but he was so nice and he literally just wanted to tell us that we were safe there because he and the rest of his officer buddies were there to protect us. And I just thought that was so nice. And obviously tourism is a huge part of the economy in Ecuador. So it is, it works well for them to have good security and keep the tourists safe. But if you don't know that, and all you've heard is things that happened in the city years ago, it makes sense that you wouldn't want to be there. And I didn't find anything about these newer efforts when I was looking at stuff online. I had no idea there would be officers looking out for us. And so that made me feel a lot more at ease. Now, the first afternoon we were there, Exotica had set us up on a tour with a local guy named Carlos, and his goal with this tour was to just tell us where we could safely explore. Like, we walked around the city with him and he'd be like, this is a good place to go. You should explore the rest of this area. That over there, you can go there. Here, don't go past here. And if you're gonna go over here, make sure you walk down like this street. Like, he gave us specific things to visit and instructions on how to safely navigate the city, and that made such a huge difference. So, kind of a recap for that, he said the furthest into the city you want to go is Parque Centenario, which is kind of like their Independence Square. And if you go that far, make sure you come down 9 de Octubre Street, or Avenue. It's a wide, busy avenue, lots of people, lots of police officers, no little dark alleyways or anything. We did not listen one time, and we thought we'd take a shortcut over to Parque Semenario, and that was the only time we felt uneasy. He knew what he was talking about. And so really, if you see an officer near you, you're probably in a good place to be. But once again, the closer you are to the waterfront, the better off you're going to be. But that doesn't mean there's not things for you to enjoy. Most of the tourist aspects, the things you'd want to check out anyways in the city, are near the waterfront. And so you're going to be in a great position to explore the city safely and have a wonderful time with no bad experiences. With all that said, here are 11 activities that you can safely do in Guayaquil and have an amazing time. All right, so probably the most iconic thing to do in Guayaquil is to check out Santa Ana Hill. And you may have heard of this or seen it on the pictures. It's a beautiful hillside that's covered in colorful shops and houses. And to get to the top, there are 465 stairs you have to climb. Now, it is a bit of a trek, but they are very well maintained stairs. Like, there are homes here, so there are people that climb these every night, and there is security all the way up the stairs stationed at different points, so it's guarded, and the view from the top is just beautiful. You can see another hill across the way that's covered in similar houses with all those different colors, and you can see the downtown area of Guayaquil, which is very interesting because there are some modern elements down there, like some skyscrapers and some more original architecture. And that's just such a fun trek if you can manage to get up the stairs. And even if you can't get all the way to the top, I would recommend you go as far as you can. Right at the bottom of the hill, off to the right, there's another area that's really fun to explore. The streets are all cobblestone and the houses are wooden and they're painted in these fun colors. There's some art galleries and just different things there, and you can kind of follow these streets down to the water. It was so cute. I absolutely loved it. It was very peaceful. Even though it was cobblestones, again, it was even, it was well maintained, and I would definitely add that to your list as well. Next up is the Malecon 2000, which I referenced earlier, and this is just a beautiful area. It's a wide boardwalk along the waterfront, and it's several miles long. So you can spend a long time exploring this area. I'm going to point out a couple additional things in a minute that are technically on the Malecon, but they're their own thing. But if you're just exploring the Malecon, there are restaurants, there is a mall, there's playgrounds for the kids, there's a beautiful botanical garden, which I highly recommend walking through. We passed kind of an artisan farmers market type of thing. They had little booths set up right by the waterfront. Just all sorts of stuff you can do. There's a movie theater as well. And this area is the most heavily guarded. It is fenced in. They close certain gates at night so they can control the flow of traffic coming in and out. And they just take such good care of it. Like, they spray the sidewalks every day to get rid of the bird poo. Like, I don't know a park near me that does that. Like, they keep it looking really sharp. And we had a lot of fun exploring that. Our hotel was kind of halfway in the middle of it, so we explored one half one day and the other half the other. And so I would set aside a lot of time just to stroll along there. If you're looking for dinner and it's dark out, that's a great place to go because you can walk around safely after dark. And so definitely check out the Malecon 2000. One of the things that's technically on the Malecon, but its own separate thing, is the local contemporary art museum. This is one that Daniel and I didn't get to go into, but other people in our group did. While we went to climb Santa Ana Hill, we kind of split up, and they said it was beautiful inside. It was clean, it was air conditioned, which is kind of a big thing, especially if you're visiting during peak sun season, which it'll get you. And they said there was just some really beautiful art in there. The other thing I highly recommend on the Malecon 2000 is La Perla, which is their Ferris wheel. It is the tallest Ferris wheel in South America, and you will get such a beautiful view of the city and the water. You ride in closed-in cars, so there's, no worries about falling out, but this was just such a fun little thing. It, again, only cost a couple dollars per person to go up, and it lasted about 10 minutes. Like, they didn't speed you around. We got to take our time, really take in the view, and this is actually part of a bigger, amusement park. Unfortunately, we didn't really get to explore the rest of the amusement park due to time restraints. We did pop into the arcade real quick, but do not miss La Perla. You will really enjoy it if you like Ferris wheels. If you're afraid of heights, obviously don't go. You're not going to like the next thing on my list either. But if you're okay with that, definitely check out La Perla. Okay, so the next thing on my list is the Aerovia de Guayaquil. And this is their cable cars. This is their public transportation system that helps them manage traffic in the city and across the bridge to the city across the river. And it is so affordable. You do have to pay for a reloadable transport card, which is about $5 per person, but the round trip, which lasts about 45 minutes, was only $1.50 to $2 per person. And we had so much fun. You go up in these cable cars, you go all the way across the river, and it's really fun to see all the other cars passing you. Once again, this great aerial view of everything. And then when you come back, you can take it further into the city, and we passed their hospital, which was beautiful in this really pretty greenish blue color. Their cemetery was huge. It's literally this white city, and apparently they kind of stack the graves and into the walls, so it's got these high walls, and that's got some very old beautiful architecture. And so we took that all the way to Parque Centenario, and that was just a great way to cover some good ground and relax and also sightsee at the same time. So definitely recommend checking that out, once again, if you're not afraid of heights. One more thing that starts right by the Malecon is the Guayas River Catamaran Cruise, and you can get on a catamaran for $10 an adult and take this ride up and down the river and get another tour of the city from that perspective. So this was the one other thing we didn't get to do, and I was kind of bummed about it, but we just didn't end up having time. I believe it's about 2 hours long, and again, $10. This was one of the top things Carlos recommended to us. If that interests you, you can find that right off of the Malecon. They also have a website, and so that could be a really fun thing if you don't want to be walking around for a little bit. So earlier I mentioned that you really don't want to go further into the city than Parque Centenario, but if you do want to check this out, this is a very important monument for the people. It marks the 100th anniversary of their independence. So they put up this beautiful monument in 1921 and then built a park around it, and it's a very popular gathering spot today. You can go check it out. Again, the cable cars get off right near there, so you can walk over, but be sure to return to the city via 9 de Octubre. One of the coolest things to do in Guayaquil, in my opinion, is Parque Semenario. And this is a very small park with a huge population of iguanas. I thought that was the coolest thing. You don't see them wandering around the city, but in this park, they are all over the place. They will put food out for them in the morning and they'll share it with some turtles in the pond and the birds. Like, once the sun comes out, you better watch your step because they will lay anywhere trying to get the sun. They will also be overhead, so beware walking under any trees for iguana dung. But this was so cool. They had little ones, they had huge ones that I was like, that is a big lizard. But they're super nice. They're not domesticated, so like don't go try to pet them. And I don't think you're technically supposed to feed them either, but you can go be in this beautiful park surrounded by iguanas. And there's also a gorgeous church in the background that just frames the backdrop of this park so nicely. So be sure to set aside some time for that as well. If you're interested in another guided tour of Guayaquil, you should check out the double-decker bus. It actually takes off right from Parque Semenario. We happened to hit it on a day when we were the only 2 passengers, and we had a great time. There is an English audio guide that goes along with it, so your bus driver will take you through the streets, and you'll be able to see some popular landmarks and understand their significance. He also took us up to this hillside park. So we had to walk a little bit of a ways past some sort of like military base, but then there was a park right next to it and it had a really pretty view of the city and some very fancy houses. And so that was another great way to see more of the city without feeling insecure or exposed. We were very safe on the bus. It only cost $8 per person and it lasted for a full 2 hours, so that was a really great deal. If you are interested in checking out another local museum, I highly recommend the Guayaquil Municipal Museum. This was such a fun way to learn more about the city's history. This was free to enter, and a lot of the stuff was in Spanish, so we were pulling out our Google Translate, but we learned some really cool stuff about the city. Like, it was a pirate port at one point, and supposedly inspired the tale of Robinson Crusoe. And it also had tons of really interesting artifacts, models of the city through the ages, and on the upper level, there were a bunch of taxidermy animals from creatures that you can find in the area. And so overall, it was just a really interesting way to learn more about the city's history and the people and how far it's come from when the first people settled there. And lastly, number 11, be sure to check out the local artisan market. Now, this was such a fun stop. If you were looking for souvenirs, this is the place to go. It's a warehouse-like building, and it is just completely covered in little dolls that are covered floor to ceiling in wares. Like, it looks like the walls are made of bags and baskets and alpaca wool items. Like, they stuff things into every nook and cranny, and so there are dozens, potentially over 100 different stalls. Honestly, it is a little bit of a maze. I got a little lost in keeping track of everything, but there are so many cool things you can find. Some of them are local handmade, some of them you can tell were imported from different areas, but everything was really well priced. We got souvenirs for all our family there. I got a leather purse for I think $15. It is a handmade embroidered leather purse, 15 bucks. I use it all the time. So this is a really great spot to get souvenirs for your whole trip. They have stuff that's not just from Guayaquil, but also the Galapagos Islands, Quito. So there's a great variety there. Really recommend checking that out. I did not get any pictures or video because things were so tight. I really didn't feel comfortable taking out my phone again here. I was also kind of keeping all my stuff tucked away because this is one where, again, it's tight, you're bumping into people, but with that said, did not feel safe or like someone was targeting us. I was just using an abundance of caution there. So this is another one that Carlos recommended. We had zero problems going in, had a great time. And that's just a little ways away from the waterfront. I think it's maybe 2 blocks from the Malecon. So definitely check that out as well. All right, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really hope that this was helpful for you. If you had any qualms about visiting Guayaquil, I really hope that you can go into this with confidence now, knowing how and where to keep yourself safe and what kind of fun things you can enjoy while you're there. If you did find this video helpful, let me know. Give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear from you. And if you do want more information about this, there is a full written blog post about it at www.cochranewriting.com. And last thing, if you're not already subscribed, please be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go to support Carried Away Travels. Thank you so much. Bye.